Hey screen printers, today at Ryonet we're wrapping up our Cyber Monday sale, so we thought we'd do a print project with some of the items that are available on the 2013 Cyber Monday sale. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a one-pass white using the new Meteor White ink on a black shirt. We're going to do that using a high tension screen, the Solid-Loc high tension screen. So we're going to start by stretching a frame, then we're going to go apply the thick coat of Hi-Fi emulsion, which is a high solids content emulsion. Then we're going to use the Comet White, one pass with a squeegee, and go awesome, nice, bright, soft through a 110 mesh screen, Solid-Loc screen, and we'll see how it works. So let's start out by doing a Solid-Loc screen. So right now we're using 110 mesh. So I have a 110 mesh panel on the Solid-Loc frame here. You clip it in the outer edge first, and then you do the inner edge. So it just clips in quickly. These guys are very easy to use, but one thing you have to remember is that you do not want to stress the panel. So what I mean by that is you don't want to pull too hard on the stretching strips or the panel during stretching, because then sometimes that can actually break some of the items to Solid-Loc. So this is the stretching strip, and that's the #1 most broken part of the system. And the reason why that breaks typically is people are wrenching on it too hard, or they don't double check to make sure it's all the way in. So I'm making sure it's all the way in. That's locked and loaded. Just hear this guy lock into place. Snap, and we're rocking. Got to make sure that it's clipped in on both sides. So sometimes I just press it down just to make sure, and we're good to go. Yep. Okay, so now we do the long side. And this I've learned a little trick. You basically take your tension bar, just kind of throw it in there, and it kind of just snaps into place. Doesn't work every single time, but there you go. You see it like that, and grabs the panel. So then I just manually hand tighten that there, and then I'll do the same thing over there, snap. Once you get good at these things, it goes pretty fast. I mean, the screens that it makes is awesome. We're doing some ROI calculations here at Ryonet, and if versus stretch and glue, the first time you have to replace a stretch and glue screen, you're essentially paying for that Solid-Loc screen. So the ROI is definitely there to invest in this system. Plus the amount of better prints that it makes. It's just phenomenal. So there we go. One more to stretch, and you can see how easy this whole system works. Now the frames are on sale for Cyber Monday. The kits are on sale. Frames are on sale for a really great price. So definitely check those out. This is our last stretch in the kit. And if you notice, I'm just being really kind of methodical with this. I'm not wrenching on anything too hard. You could probably go a little bit faster, but there's no need to. You really want to just make sure you're doing a good job and just snapping that in place. Hear the lock, and you're ready to rock. Once this is stretched, let's put a tension meter on that. And right now we're reading at almost 40 newtons. So it's a very, very tight tension. Tight tension is going to allow that ink to go through the screen better, closer off contact to the shirt. It's like a tighter trampoline, so bam, put more ink on the shirt faster. Now let's go take this screen into the darkroom, degrease it with the green stuff degreaser, which is on sale as well for Cyber Monday, and then going to coat it with Hi-Fi emulsion. So we use the green stuff degreaser, dehazer, abrader to actually clean the screen. This actually abrades the mesh because it has a porous in it that helps the emulsion stick to it better. So we use this, we let it dry. There's tons of videos on this, by the way, if you want to see it. We did one yesterday, so I'm not going to show you that right now. The Hi-Fi blue is what we're going to be using. The Hi-Fi is a photopolymer, so fast exposing, very high solids content, meaning it's going to build a thicker stencil than, let's say, your WBP or your RXP dual cure emulsions, which is great if you want to put more ink down. The stencil thickness of your emulsion coat is directly correlated to how much ink goes down on the screen, or through the screen onto the shirt, excuse me. So that is why this is important. So I'm going to use the round edge of the scoop coater as well. I'm going to do 3 coats, so I'm going to put a little bit more emulsion. I'm not going to do a dry coat, meaning that once the emulsion is dry, I'm not going to do another coat. So I'm going to try to get as much emulsion on there as possible with just 1 coat for time purposes, and we'll see what kind of results we get. If you really want a thick stencil, you can let the emulsion dry, come back and do another coat. But that becomes a little bit more harder. A, it's a lot longer because you have to wait for it to dry, and B, you have to make sure that this thickness on the second coat is correlated and dictated. Typically what we do is we put like some of the thicker screen tape down on the edge of the screen to allow the scoop coater to basically sit off just a little bit more, and you're making a bigger stencil. So that was what we do for like high density printing, but for just this one pass white, we should be good with just the round side of the scoop coater, laying more emulsion down and doing a couple more coats. So we're going to start down at the bottom here. We've let the emulsion settle. Let that kind of pan up to the screen. And then just a nice solid coat there. Stop at the top, clean it off. Builds a nice stencil, then I flip the screen over that way. I'm going to do that a couple times. So let it go down to the screen like so. And then I'm going to do that one more time on the inside, pushing the emulsion to the outside of the mesh. There we are. So let's check our stencil out. It's nice and smooth and glossy. I like it. Now we let the screen dry in the screen rack over here, upside down. Now, Solid-Loc frames, you do need to be careful on the edge. I typically tape the edge. Right now the edge isn't taped, so I'm going to be very careful when I'm setting this into the screen drying rack to make sure that I'm not hurting the critical edge mesh. We'll let that guy dry, and then we'll come expose it. All right, so we've placed our film. Now it's time for exposure. And for exposure, we're going to be using the Amagraph Exposure Single Point Light Exposure Unit. And this is a photopolymer, so with this particular unit, we are going to be exposing for 56 light units. Exposure complete, and now time for washout. So when washing out this screen, because it's got a little bit thicker stencil, we do need to be careful and be a little bit more sensitive while we're washing it out. So we'll let it soak for about a minute and then we'll go to washout. Okay, so we're all washed out. Let's take a look if we can see the stencil. Right here you can see some of that stencil and how thick and nice it is, which is going to build a nice well for our white ink. All right, so we're ready to print this stuff. We're going to be using the new Meteor White. This is a very awesome new white that we have. It's a cotton white, meaning that it's built for cotton shirts or light blended in 50-50 shirts or poly shirts. Not for darks, it's not a low bleed ink, but you can see this is a triple milled ink. It's extremely creamy, very, very easy to use. So we're going through a low mesh right now because we want a one-pass white, but this also goes through high mesh, so it's great for process printing. So we're going to load the stencil up here. And I'm going to do a pull print on this. When doing these types of prints, I like pull prints a little bit more to allow you to get a little bit better control of the squeegee angle. When you're printing with a squeegee, the lower you go, the more ink you lay down. Higher you go, the less ink you lay down. So when you're pushing, you don't have as much control as when you're pulling. So let's see how this thing prints. So we're going to load the stencil up first. And then we will go for a one pull white. Now off contact's also very important. I didn't touch that, but this is about a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a little bit more. The tight tension, you don't need as much off contact for sure. Okay, what we're looking for is a good release there, and all the ink has cleared the screen phenomenally, so we should be good to go. And then there is our one pass white. Looks pretty killer for one hit. There we are, Meteor White through Solid-Loc screen, one pass wonder. Check it out for yourself.